Patriotically correct, politically biased, emotionally disturbed. On behalf of all of us at Mojo, we apologize. Stewart's and Richard, PC Radio.
We are live on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. Boy, the weather was incredibly psycho yesterday. It was completely weird. We were out working, doing some canine training, doing a video shoot. Actually, we've got some camera guys following us around here for our day job, I guess, if you would call it that. And it's pretty cool though. We have a chance to be on like A&E now. They got rid of live PD, and now they're going to do like this live on the hunt thing, which is pretty cool. They're following us around. Mojo 50 Radio, iHeartRadio. Welcome to our 1 million. It's official. 1 million yesterday.
Yeah?
Yep, and then some odd number behind it. So I don't remember if it was like 1,011,011 people. You 11 do count, by the way.
Yes.
Because without you, we couldn't total up to the million. So
Your
let's
lives matter.
just keep on going and let's take it to 10 million. Because today is October 1st, Richard. I cannot believe it. We're in October. That means 33 days until we elect a new president. By the way, it won't matter who we elect because we won't find out until, what is it going to be, probably March, April, before we figure it. Constitutional crisis will be coming. We will have the interim president, Nancy Pelosi. These are all my predictions, and I believe that they're all going to be real. Richard, you're wearing your red, white, and blue today, and you look very patriotic, sir.
Yes, sir. I'm going to give you my prediction. I'm going to say it's going to be around Valentine's Day when we find out who our president is. If we're going to keep the same awesome dude or we're getting some sleepy dude with dementia.
Well, and by the way, the sleepy dude with dementia will only be in office, I would predict, for about 30 days, maybe 3 months. That 30 to 90 days will be as long as he'll be in office until his wife is crying. She'll be on national television. She'll be talking about his diagnosis. He has dementia, and he can no longer fulfill the duties of the office of the presidency.
Are you saying that I should probably put Joe Biden on my Deadpool?
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, on Twitter at Correct Radio, we do have a Deadpool going. So yes. I need some help. We could cheat a little bit here. Who do you think in the next, how long is our Deadpool good for?
1 year.
One year. Okay.
October 1st of next year, you can have, I think we talk about 4 selections.
We just going to start
Deadpool
today then? Is that, this is the day one?
Yeah, we'll start over now.
Okay.
That's good.
All right, fine. That's good. That's all right. I'm going to go with Justin Bieber. Somebody's going to kill that guy. I don't think it'll be a voluntary death. Somebody's going to kill that guy. He talks too much crap, man. On the phone with us right now, Richard, is Gidget Bailey.
Yes, let's get to
Gidget
work.
is, let's get to work. Gidget is a restaurateur, if you will. She is the owner of one of the most iconic restaurants in the Twin Cities metropolitan area. It's located at Rice and Maryland in St. Paul, Tin Cups. Gidget, hey, how are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm well. The reason we're having Gidget Bailey on the show is because restaurants, Richard, no doubt, the service industry has been the number one target, almost certainly unfairly, by communist and tyrant governors across the country when it comes to restrictions regarding the COVID deal. And Gidget is, not only is she a great friend of ours, and I have to be very transparent here. I have to, for full disclosure purposes, Gidget and I are personal friends. We know each other. So
yeah.
I'm not just having her on the show here because I felt sorry for her and saw her on the news. Quite the opposite. They won't put her on the news. And they don't want to put her on the news because they don't want her telling her story. They don't want her telling her story because her story is quite synonymous with the story that we heard just yesterday at lunch. We went to a sushi restaurant, a very iconic sushi restaurant. I'll just tell you, we went to Sakura yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And so oh my God, it was so good. And it's always very good. And we go downtown to St. Peter and Fourth to Sakura. The Minnesota Wild players go there. All of their rolls, all of their sushi rolls are named after Minnesota Wild players. So I like to have the Zach Parisi. Not just because he's a great player, but because I don't like eel sauce. I'm sorry, I don't really even know what that means. Is that like a sauce that comes from an eel? I don't really know.
I don't either.
I don't. Yeah, and I don't like fish eggs. What do you call that? What's the
roe?
Fancy? Yeah, I don't. The fancy
ROE.
word. Okay. And I don't like tempura. You do. You like the fried shit all over your stuff. I swore. Promised that I was not going to swear today. I said, listen, we need to be dignified. We're having a state representative on. They're going to be pulling the audio from this show. It's going to go on the internet.
Gidget deserves better than that, too.
Gidget deserves better than that. I asked Gidget, actually. It's in my text messages. No swearing today. I'm not going to swear. And then here I am talking about this fried shit. But the tempura stuff, it's good. It really is. But when you go to have sushi, to me, you throw something in a deep fryer is just kind of not really all that appropriate. Speaking of home-cooked, great food, Tin Cups restaurant. Yes. If you have not been there, you're not really from the Twin Cities metropolitan area. Gidget, you have an iconic restaurant, and you are in some dire straits right now. Tell us about it.
Well, first of all, we have, obviously everybody knows, we were shut down for 12 weeks with a pandemic. When we were allowed to reopen, obviously we were only allowed to reopen at 50% capacity, which hurts you. It's disheartening that you still have to pay the same liquor license fees, food license fees. Usually the health department will come out once a year and do a kitchen inspection, which they should. We have had the health inspectors out 3 times in the last 6 weeks. Has nothing to do with the kitchen. It's all mask mandated.
Wow.
Do you feel like so also just recently you had a visit from a candidate that's running for U.S. Senate. Jason Lewis was at your place. We had our contributor out there who did some reporting from your place, so we're aware. You made me aware that Jason Lewis was going to be at your place because we've been trying to catch up with Jason for quite some time, and we caught up with him there at Tin Cups to get some information from him regarding his candidacy. Do you think is it possible that you're being targeted?
I believe I am, yes.
Okay.
I do believe that I am. The first time that the health department came out, obviously they wanted to make sure that we were regulating with the masks and everything, which we were. We passed. Everything was fine. All of a sudden, I do an interview with Jason Lewis, and not even 2 weeks later, I have the health department riding on me right now.
Mm-hmm. When they come out there, Gidget, what exactly? So you said that once a year the health inspector comes out to restaurants. It's been a long time since I've been in the restaurant business, so I guess I don't remember if it was a once a year thing when I was in the restaurant business or not. But and your phone is making a bunch of weird noises. Are the aliens invading, Richard? It's October 1st.
They might be.
Yeah.
They certainly could be.
See, I'm stuck inside of this studio, and I don't know if it's the apocalypse or if it's the aliens or if are the Chinese guys here. Are we getting invaded by the Chinese right now?
They've started moving south from Canada.
Yeah, they're in British Columbia. We heard
they're
last.
now at Bayport.
I need the Chinese tracker app so that we can figure out when this is actually going to be happening.
So can I ask Gidget a question quick, because I'm not quite clear on her situation.
Well, hold on a second. I want to know if the Chinese are here.
I don't know.
Okay, go ahead with the Gidget question.
So, ma'am, you said that you were shut down for all this time, and you still yet have to pay your liquor license and your tax and all that stuff. Even though the government mandated you to stay closed, you still have to pay them as if you're open?
Correct. So our liquor license, we didn't receive a refund for the 12 weeks that our establishment was closed for liquor license and for food licensing.
Well,
the
that kind of puts a whole other spin on all of this.
The city of St. Paul was to have a 90-day extension to pay our renewal fee for our liquor license. So we actually paid money when we couldn't even perform a service.
So the service that you perform is the sale of food and beverage.
Correct.
And when you don't have somebody that is in your restaurant, who are you serving food and beverage to? Nobody.
Right.
So if you're serving food and beverage,
but you can't even serve. You're on a mandated shutdown.
Mm-hmm. And if
You
you
couldn't serve
are
if you
serving
wanted
food
to.
and beverage to nobody, it would be, is this a safe assumption that your income would be zero?
Exactly.
Okay. Now, you still have operating expenses. In other words, you have to keep the electricity on in a restaurant, regardless if you're open or shut.
Right.
You have to
Right.
pay a gas bill. You have to pay phone bills. You have to pay your distributors. You have to continue to keep a supply.
Well, you still
and
have
obviously,
to pay your dram shop. You still have to pay all of your insurance on a building.
yeah, for sure. Insurance, that's another thing. And I don't know, is insurance important when people are rioting and looting and burning? Is that something that you'd really think that you'd have to have?
It definitely is. And please keep in mind also that some of these most of these businesses, I would probably say 99% of these businesses, you have to have a rider on your building for terrorists.
That's what she said.
So,
But we've heard that in the past too. The place down on Lake Street.
Yeah,
The
we're not going to
guy
mention that
got his
name.
place destroyed, and his insurance wouldn't help him because he didn't have the terrorist rider or whatever. So yeah, we've heard that
Correct.
before.
Yes, and you are
That's
asked
crap.
that when you take out your insurance
It's like
policy.
a civil unrest policy
And
or
so,
something.
when you really stop and think about it, whoever would have thought that you would need some kind of an extended insurance like that? That would be like somebody living in the desert and they're asking if you want flood insurance. I mean, it's something that you never in a lifetime ever would have thought would have happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
And-
nobody ever
and
thought
not
any
only
of this
that,
would
but
happen.
and the
we're here
insurance
now.
premiums are so astronomically high just to have that
I
added
bet.
rider on that you wouldn't be able to make it then as a small business.
So another strange thing that we were talking about, and I don't remember, Gidget, if I was talking to you or a different restaurant. I don't know if this happened at lunch yesterday, Sakura. They're talking about actually going out of business, and that was the whole point of us discussing this. You kind of are a face of St. Paul. I mean, so much in a sense that when Bob Fletcher was reelected sheriff, he promised you even before being elected sheriff, because you were talking about how bad it was getting then. Remember that, Gidget?
Correct.
We had that talk.
Yeah.
And I think Richard and I were working, and we had stopped in for lunch, and we had the talk about, boy, it's really getting violent here. It's really getting bad. Bob Fletcher, we hope that he gets elected sheriff. Prior to that, he said, you know what, if I get elected sheriff, Gidget, because you were talking about throwing in the towel. Listen, I can't be at this intersection anymore. I mean, it's really bad. And you were talking about throwing in the towel, and he said, nope, don't do that. Stay open. The city needs you. You're an iconic business here. Tin Cups, I mean, look it up. If you don't take my word for it, Google it. We have over 1 million listeners, Gidget, so we're talking to people that have no idea what Tin Cups even means. But
That fish fry is amazing.
oh my goodness, it is absolutely. There's a reason why you are iconic, and it's because you run a fantastic business. You have great food. You know, I've never had bad service at your restaurant before. This sounds like a real advertise. You're going to have to pay us for this because this is a real, this is like a 30-minute advertisement for Tin Cups. But no, on a serious note, Bob Fletcher said, please, and he was, Bob Fletcher is a legendary former St. Paul cop. He's been in all sorts of different types of admin roles. He's now the elected sheriff. He won his election. Prior to that, he said, if I win the election, Gidget, I will put a Ramsey County Sheriff's Office substation in the basement of Tin Cups. Boy, were you met with some opposition there.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh, absolutely.
And why?
Absolutely. Why was I met with?
Yeah, why do you suspect that you were met with opposition to have a substation in the basement of your restaurant?
I and my family have done so much for that community.
Mm-hmm.
And I've enjoyed doing everything for that community. Mm-hmm. Everything. The people that live in the North End just want safety. They want to be able to raise their children. They want to be able to have their children be able to go, outside and play without having stray bullets, hit their children, their homes. It's a very unsafe neighborhood right now, and it's very sad because it's a very hardworking middle-class neighborhood.
That's so weird. I can't believe, Richard, that people want to be able to go outside without the fear of gunshots. You saw yesterday when you were getting your hair cut. By the way, it looks fabulous.
I don't know.
You don't like it?
I don't know. I think I look more like I'm trying to imitate Bruno Mars now. I don't know. Maybe I just need to style it different. The problem is
imitate who?
they do your hair at this damn place, and then they go, "Yep, do this, pop, 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 you're done." And I have no idea what.
No, there was no pop, 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 you're done. We sat there for an hour yesterday while you sat under dryers and all kinds of different crap. That thing right there, and then you told me that you paid $100 for that to be done. I don't know if you've told the wife yet. I've outed you now. You bought some product. Okay, and you know what? That they sell great product there, by the way. My hair smells fantastic. You probably would not have had your haircut there had I not encouraged it. So I'm sorry.
It's you get the credit, brother.
I'm a very big fan of that place. Just as much almost a fan as I am of Gidget's, but not quite. Because you can't get a good fish fry while you're getting your haircuts. That's one thing that they could probably do to up their game a little bit. Some asparagus, maybe.
Take notes, Gidget.
Yep, we could probably. Can you do haircuts? Do you think that would be a health code violation if we were doing haircuts while we were eating our fish fry?
Probably. I'd probably be shut down quicker than what they're trying to do.
Yeah, you might get a fine for that. So,
well, they're going to fine you for it anyway. You might as well do it.
So let's get back to this, though. So, okay, so you're going through a COVID shutdown, which, by the way, was not your choice. This is mandated by Timmy the Tyrant, Governor Walz, and he says, okay, everybody's going to shut down. We're going to shut down. We're going to put our masks on. We're gonna stay safe, Minnesota. By the way, this is not about safety. This is about compliance and control because that's what liberal progressive radicals do. And so you are shut down for a period of 12 weeks, not by your choice. During those 12 weeks, you have to keep your lights on, you have to keep your stock going, you have to keep your energy going, you have to keep your social media going, your phone on, all those kinds of things because you're operating a restaurant business. At the time that you're shut down, you still have to continue to pay licensing. You still have to renew, of course, your restaurant license, right? Is it your food and beverage license? Is that correct?
Yeah.
And you get no break, no discount for that. We don't care what your income is, you little taxpayer. You're going to pay us our fee. So then you pay your you pay your fees on time all the time. Sometimes when you forget about it, you're late. Just for full disclosure, we've had this conversation before. I own a bail bond business, and sometimes I'm late renewing. By the way, I got to remember that October 14th or some arbitrary date that the state makes you renew that thing. It's really weird. But annually, you have to renew your restaurant food and beverage license. Is that right, Gidget?
Yeah.
Okay, and so sometimes you have forgotten in the past, and when you forget to renew it, you get a penalty, and you have gladly accepted that penalty when it's been your fault. Is that correct?
Correct.
This time, you didn't forget. It was just difficult to pay. I mean, you're paying employees, you're paying insurance, you're paying light bills, you're paying electricity bills. You're paying all these things, and it was a little difficult, so they called you. Tell us the story about this. Did they call you or did they just come in? How did that work?
So what ended up happening was, unfortunately, your renewal is due the day that you open up your business or start your business. So Tin Cups is on June 1st. Mm-hmm. So when we're allowed to open up on June 1st, we have to make sure that everything is paid. Insurance, workman's comp, dram shop, the whole bit. Well, we opened, we paid late on our food licensing. So I had called down to the state after I had received a letter back saying that they received my licensing application late. So they were giving me a $390 fine.
A fine, a sanction.
For paying my, so I called. And I said, is there any way that you possibly could waive this? Because granted, yes, I know I have been late sometimes with pay and stuff. I mean, we're not rich people. We're small business owners.
Yeah.
And so he said, he looked it up and he said, well, you've paid, late before. And I said, I understand that, but I've never called you because if it's my error and my fault, I pay.
Right.
Right.
This time, it's not my error and it's not my fault.
So you're telling me, hold on a second, hold on. You had some personal accountability and some personal responsibility. That's something that you had?
For paying late?
Yeah. You admitted that was that's racist. She admitted, Richard, that something was her fault. I just want to rewind the tapes. Hold on a second here.
Yeah.
Intern boy, can you rewind the tapes? Did somebody just admit that they had personal accountability on this show? That happened? Okay.
Gidget, you're a trailblazer. I want you to know that.
We're gonna make sure that we mark this. Yoda, can you... Responsibility you have no more, Gidget. Okay, there we go. So you had personal responsibility. You admitted it when it was your fault. You didn't even ask for a reprieve at all. This time it's not your fault. Timmy the tyrant, the communist socialist, shut you down. And so you said, listen, I just don't have the funds for this. And then the conversation went how?
Unfortunately, you still have to pay. And I said, well, here's the deal. I was shut down for 12 weeks. Can we just call it a wash? The 12 weeks I'm shut down, I'm not getting a refund back. For not being able to, have a business portion of those 12 weeks. So can we just call it even?
Right.
And unfortunately, that's not how it went. I still have to pay the $390.
Wow.
So with me calling and complaining, it's just ironic that Jason Lewis was in and did an interview with me, and then I called to complain about the $390 late fee that I have to pay, and wouldn't you know it, not even 5 days in business from both of those happening, I have the health department in again.
Okay, so the health department comes in. By the way, when they pulled up, were they wearing masks?
Actually, this is really funny because they weren't. They put their masks on before the two of them came in. I'm assuming one of them was in training.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they showed their badges and everything.
Yeah.
One of my bartender was drinking a sip of coffee. Obviously, you can't have a mask on when you're, he had it pulled down. I'm taking a sip of coffee. I had mine on. I was waiting on a table.
Mm-hmm.
And so then she said to us that we had a few violations.
Oh.
One of the violations that she gave us when she came in the very first time to check and we passed everything is we had a sign up that said that we will not ask if you do not have a mask on. Obviously, we understand that you have an underlying condition, and we're just not going to go down that road.
Yeah, you have some sort of a medical condition that prohibits you from or restricts you from depleting the oxygen from your brain for extended periods of time. I think we all have that condition.
Just not going to go down that road with people.
I wouldn't either.
Now, it's hard right now for any of these businesses. The last thing you want to do is lose any customers coming through your doors. Obviously, if they're not wearing a mask, we know that they have an underlying condition, and you just let it go.
With only about a minute left here, I want to hear how this continued. Go ahead.
Okay. So anyways, when they came in the very first time, and we had that sign up on our door, we had to take that down. We now have to have a sign up that says mandated masks must be worn and treated.
By order of the governor.
By order of the governor and the Minnesota Health Department.
It's very important.
Is that the same for every business? Every business has to have the same sign. Is it like the requirements for posting that you do not accept firearms in your business?
Right. Yeah. There's got to be a letters got to be so big and blah blah blah. It's got to be in the right place and all those things. I'm sure that they are very specific about where that stuff needs to be. Gidget,
well, and the other sad thing is
okay. So they roll up wearing no masks. They come in. Right. Your bartender was taking a sip of coffee. You were wearing your mask. Tell us in 30 seconds how this ends.
It ended with them sending us a letter stating that they had to come back. They came back the following day. They had to recheck everything, and so we're going to wait for them to come in again.
All right, and they're going to keep coming back. You wear your mask. You wear your mask, you little taxpayer, you. And you make sure that you try to control everybody that comes into that business of yours as well. Gidget Bailey, the owner of Tin Cups, Rice and Maryland in St. Paul, Minnesota. If you have not been there,
we're coming for fish.
We're definitely coming for fish. Richard, by the way, eats a lot of fish, as proven by yesterday. Holy smokers. You ate so much at that place yesterday. Representative Jeremy Munson coming up to talk about how the Timmy the Tyrant is ruining us. More PC Radio straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
We will force votes. We will not stop. Any Republican senator is part of the cover-up. What the f***?
Impeachment. Impeachment.
This is madness.
The PC Radio Show with Stu and Rich. Back in a minute.
Hey, it's Stu Peters with the Patriotically Correct Radio Show, here to talk to you more about Johnson Jewelers. I talk about them a lot. I talk about them because they're paying us to, but also because we have personal experience, or at least I do, with Johnson Jewelers. And if you have not had personal experience with Johnson Jewelers, it's because maybe that you were unaware, but now you are aware. And whether you're located near or around Woodbury, Minnesota is irrelevant, because Johnson Jewelers can provide service to you no matter where you are, globally, internationally, as well as around the world at johnsonjewelers.com. Maybe you have that old pendant or crest or stone that you want turned into a custom piece of jewelry. Maybe you have some jewelry that needs to be restored, or maybe you want something completely new made for you. You have something in mind? Just a quick visit to the website, a couple of phone calls, an email exchanged here and there, and you have the personal custom piece of jewelry meant for you. Visit them online right now, johnsonjewelers.com, johnsonjewelers.com, that's johnsonjewelers.com.
Prop 25 ends our right to put up bail for anyone, even though they may have been racially profiled. Prop 25 replaces bail with computer algorithms. Academic studies show that these algorithms are biased. Some call them black boxes. And Prop 25's new bureaucracy delays justice for innocent people stuck in jail. The NAACP asks you to vote no on Proposition 25.
Hey, it's Stu Peters and Richard Leonard for Adjust Today Chiropractic. Now, I want you to take a look at this. This is the website for Adjust Today Chiropractic, which obviously is at adjusttodaychiropractic.com. Dr. Dustin Dukart says you're in good hands. He believes everyone has a chance to experience the benefits of chiropractic care. He'd love to find out how to skillfully take care of you and your spine, and that can be done even on Saturdays. He makes himself available on Saturdays. And Richard, you know how important it is to be properly aligned.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's no secret that proper alignment is good for you, not only in just an everyday health aspect, but also, I mean, it can help things that you don't even know that it helps. Now, Dr. Dustin Dukart does specialize in like athletic pain and things like that, but also, I mean, chiropractic care can help with allergies, migraines, all kinds of stuff. Visit him today, adjusttodaychiropractic.com, adjusttodaychiropractic.com. That's adjusttodaychiropractic.com.
Twitter blew up.
More offensive than a presidential tweet.
Russia, China, Japan, Mexico, all countries will respect us far more than they do under past administrations.
PC Radio with Stu and Rich. Mojo 50 Radio.
Welcoming back in almost, well, actually over now, over 1 million listeners yesterday. Bless you, Richard. Wow. Where's your mask, by the way? Gidget would be really upset if she saw you. I mean, you're breathing on that microphone. How many guests have been there? Well, doesn't matter. PC Radio, the Patriotically Correct Radio Show, Monday through Friday, every day at 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you are looking for other places to watch this low-budget afternoon radio program, you can actually watch somebody do radio. It's something like, many years ago, you used to be like, God, I wonder what that guy looks like. And now we got all these cameras all over the place. You can't go anywhere without being on camera, without being documented. Now, when you're going to restaurants, you have to give your name. I was Dick Durbin yesterday. That was interesting. I'm never going to give you my real name or my real phone number. And if it's contact tracing that you're claiming is what that is absolutely not true. They want to track you. They want to document you. They want to know where you've been. I don't know who the proverbial they is, but call me a conspiracy theorist. Fine, whatever. Maybe I am. Maybe this whole thing really is about safety and it's not about control and compliance. Maybe the government really does care about me. Maybe I am really being looked after here. And for that, God, I am just so indebted. I just appreciate so much because I don't know, the little taxpayer that I am, the little law-abiding, scrupulously adhere to the letter of the law guy that I am, I don't know what's best for myself and my family. So thank God I have elected representatives that can tell me exactly how to walk, talk, chew my bubble gum, where I can eat for restaurants, how many people can sit with me, and what I need to do to cover my face. Distance from everybody, by the way. Dehumanize myself and be completely controlled. I'm so appreciative for all of these things. We had Gidget Bailey on in the first half. She's the owner of Tin Cups Restaurant. We were talking about Sakura that we were at yesterday. The threat of shutting down looms. Probably, I think it's upwards towards 60%, the threat of business closures in the service industry, Richard. Before the end of the day, we are going to have, we're only at the apex of this thing. President Trump talks about a V-shaped recovery. Former Vice President and candidate Joe Biden talks about a K-shaped recovery. I don't really know what that means. You have a stick there and then a couple of lines. I don't know what a K-shaped recovery looks like. Or how that makes any sense. But we're talking about somebody who has absolutely no idea what state he's in. We do know that we have somebody on the phone right now who knows exactly what state he's in and is very familiar with the state of the climate that is going on in the service industry, and specifically here in the state of Minnesota, while we have the hypocrisy of our governor who's going to allow thousands of people to burn businesses down, and without the threat, by the way, of arrest or prosecution. But you may be arrested, you may be prosecuted, and certainly sanctioned or fined if you choose to open your small business. Mr. Representative Jeremy Munson, Minnesota State Representative, joins us here on the Patriotically Correct radio show. Sir, thank you for your time, and I apologize for calling you so late last night and asking you to be on, but your message needs to be heard. The small businesses, specifically the entertainment and hospitality businesses, are suffering so greatly here in this state. What can we do to bring it back?
Well, yeah, thanks both of you for having me on. And, it's really important to talk about the service industry. And I know that there's so many COVID restrictions on them. And then, the governor kind of turned his knobs down, so to speak, or turned them up. I don't know which way it is, but, allow them to have indoor seating, right? He said you couldn't have any indoor seating. It was to go only. Outdoor seating was allowed. All these restaurants went out and spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on these tents and outdoor patio furniture, set up stuff in their parking lot or along busy streets. And then 2 weeks later, he said, well, you can have people inside, but 50% capacity. And a lot of Minnesotans thought, oh, they're good now. They're allowed to have, be open. They're making money now, so let's forget about them. But the cold weather that's coming means that they can't use their outdoor seating. And a lot of restaurants, because of their configuration, are not going to be able to have enough tables inside. And a lot of their business models are set up on capacity. They need to have the tables full in order to survive.
Yeah.
And so many of them will continue to have enormous losses because of the restrictions, and certain restaurants will make it based on their inside configuration, and many restaurants will not.
Tin Cups at Rice in Maryland and St. Paul, the owner Gidget was on in the first half, and she was talking about how she didn't receive any kind of latitude. There was no privilege, if you will, given to her for this mandated shutdown. She still has to pay her full food and beverage license. She still has to pay the full amount of her liquor license. And now she's been fined once, and the threat of another fine, because when the health inspector pulled up, by the way, not wearing masks, got out, came in, then, they're sitting right next to each other. I don't think that's 6 feet. I don't think they were driving a Bradley. And by the way, in a Bradley, you have been inside of a tank before. It's not a tank. What is it called again, Richard?
It is an infantry fighting vehicle.
I always get yelled at. Richard, by the way, is Minnesota National Guard, combat wounded war veteran, deployed Purple Heart recipient, and we thank him for his service quite frequently on this show. But yeah, so they're not. There's not a lot of room in those things, so I guess it was an unfair thing. But I'm illustrating here. They're not in a Peterbilt, 53 feet apart from one another in the trailer. They're pulling up in like a Ford Explorer, right? They're sitting right on top of each other. They're paid for, by the way, their salaries by the state, by the taxpayer. Okay, we pay them. We pay them for their jobs. They go in here and they say, "Well, your bartender's not wearing her mask," and Gidget goes, "Well, she was just taking a sip of her coffee." And so anyway, this is getting ridiculous. They don't get reprieves. They don't get any latitude. They don't get any help. They don't get any relief during this period where they were shut down. Now they're reopening. again, at 50% occupancy, and Tin Cups, they don't have any outdoor seating. A lot of restaurants don't have any outdoor seating. So the ones that do are fortunate that they're able to take advantage of that. But as we approach the cold weather season, they're not going to be able to do that. And so what are we going to do? What are we going to see here as far as, is this thing going to get worse before it gets better?
Well, economically, yes, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. As far as the disease spreading, I mean, I think we're going to see more cases of the virus pop up, but I don't think we're going to see a spike in deaths. And looking at the data for the number of deaths in Minnesota, we had our, spike in the, late spring, early summer, and we've been relatively flat since the end of June as far as the number of new deaths. So it's the cases are going to go up, but we're finding that, that was ultimately what all health experts thought, is that somewhere between 60 to 150 million people in America will get COVID this year. And all of the restrictions that we put on businesses, the mask mandates, and everything was only put in place to slow the spread so that we didn't burden our hospitals, right? So the hospitals weren't overrun, because if there was one person looking for an ICU bed and there wasn't any because they were full of COVID patients, and that person died, then that's a life we could have saved by slowing the spread. Mm-hmm. But we've never hit capacity in our hospital beds, and of course 10,000 healthcare workers were laid off because the hospitals were so empty. So I think the economic devastation to our state needs to stop, and we need to do what Florida did, which is just allow people the freedom to reopen and put in precautions as they see fit.
Well, I think that's a great point, Jeremy. And I wonder also how much of this is just, and maybe it's unintentional. I mean, excuse my ignorance, but maybe it's unintentional, and maybe the government doesn't mean to do this. But a lot of this stuff, I almost swore, is just to keep people scared, and a way to control the way that they move about their communities, the way they go out and spend their money. I don't know. It seems like, so I live in the East Metro, and I walk into Cub and I don't always put a mask on. I'm going in to get some cinnamon so the wife can make whatever it is she makes. And I get looked at like I am there to murder 100 people. And I just don't get it. I don't understand why everyone is so terrified. We can't run from the virus, right? If you're going to get it, you're going to get it. But 99.97% of everybody who gets this thing, according to the data, that doesn't have a compromised immune system, gets through it okay. My father-in-law, who's going to be 80 next month, got it, and he replaced his deck while he had COVID at home. My mother-in-law, who has been knocking on death's doorstep since April with all kinds of different things, also had COVID and got through it, and also had pneumonia. So what is it that we're so incredibly terrified of?
Well, I mean, I can't disagree with what you're saying. And of course, the numbers will only get better as, the numbers you talked about on the death rate is for identified cases. There are a lot of people out there who have COVID, who are asymptomatic, who don't get tested, who don't have DHS show up at their door and, do a random test. And they get through without really any symptoms at all. And if those numbers were included in that case number, then the numbers would even be, the death rate would even be lower.
Yeah.
My fear is that we're creating a dangerous precedent for any viral outbreak, even a bad seasonal flu outbreak. When we have normal seasonal flu outbreaks, our nursing home here shuts down or locks down to prevent, from spreading rapidly through the residents. But we're creating a precedent now that if you want to open a salon or a restaurant, or you need to expand your business line of credit, and you go into the bank and say, yeah, we need an extra, whatever money for our restaurant because we're going to be doing renovations and expanding. The bank may ask you, well, we won't give you a loan unless you can go without any income for 8 months.
What?
Can you meet that threshold? Because that's the power the governor has, and that's the political risk in doing business for salons and restaurants and bar owners and anyone in the service industry. So that's gonna also cripple our economy and prevent new restaurants from opening up where normally when, a cyclical business where most restaurants, will fail in 5 years or whatever, new ones pop up, but we may not have restaurants replace those.
So wait, what you're saying is that if me as a business owner, I go to the bank and I want to, let's say, expand my store because my business is growing, I have to be able to prove to the bank that I can sustain my business financially for 8 months without any income?
What I'm saying is that banks will always assess risk in giving loans. And
Right.
the current, they want you to have so much, revenue. They want you to have so much cash on hand in order to determine if they want to give you a loan. But the risk now has increased for businesses in the service industry. And I'm not saying this is a mandate from banks, but this will go into the calculation of whether they're going to give you a loan.
The underwriting risk,
determining the risk of failure, and this has drastically increased the risk of failure for businesses in the service industry or any business that, like a bounce house business or any industry where they have to look at the public health now. If the government can come in and shut you down, you won't be able to survive. So why would a bank give you a loan?
This is a very slippery slope. Wow. I mean, we have gone, and forgive me, and Representative Munson, I don't know that you're a daily listener to our show. I hope that you will be now, because then we would have 1,012,000. But this is a very slippery slope, and the conspiracy theorist that comes out in me oftentimes says to myself, right now, we're talking about safety, right? We're talking about safety and health. And fear is the number one emotion that allows any entity, anybody, to control the actions of another. People will go beyond the normal barriers that they would have to protect themselves from being sick, to protect themselves from injury, to protect themselves from death, to protect their families from being compromised. So if you can use the fear emotion to really get inside of somebody, and we're talking about, like Richard pointed out, and like you guys were opining on the survival rate, this thing is 99.97%. Then in the mainstream media, when they actually do pick up a story like this, we're hearing about Milwaukee, for example. They're fudging their numbers. They're completely lying. You don't even have to have tested positive. But if you die and a doctor deems that you had COVID-like symptoms, you will be ruled a COVID death. So we are upping the numbers. We are lying. It's proven in Milwaukee, at least, and I don't know if that's happening here in the Twin Cities metropolitan area or in Minnesota, specifically speaking, but we do know that there are areas of the country that are lying to us. In the meantime, we have a governor who has, on multiple occasions, unilaterally extended this peacetime emergency, giving him this authority. How many more times can he do this and keep these businesses shut down?
Yes. Well, to your point about the government lying on the data, that was actually a federal memo put out by HHS or the federal health. It was a CDC or something that put it out saying that this is a recommendation for doctors if they had any respiratory symptoms that it should be marked down as COVID. And Senator Scott Jensen in Minnesota went out and did a video on this. Concerned that he's now being told as a doctor that he should be ruling this as COVID deaths. And that's when people, the State Department of Board of Medical Practice, had a complaint challenging him. And, he was at risk of losing his medical license because he was, spreading misinformation. But it was an absolute true statement that the government is asking people to do this. That's a major concern. Another major concern from the government is that they used to report the number of people the number of COVID patients that were in the hospital and in the ICU, because that's the whole reason why we're doing this. Mm-hmm. And they stopped doing that this week. They said, we're no longer going to report the number of people currently in the hospital and currently in the ICU beds. We see how many people, are admitted to the hospital, but some people are there an hour, some people are there 10 days or 30 days. And so the whole reason we're doing this is to not overburden our hospitals. And the governor's administration has unilaterally decided they're not going to report the most important numbers, our daily numbers for COVID.
How much longer can he do this? How many more times can he extend this peacetime emergency? How much longer can he be the dictator of this state?
He can do it indefinitely. Let me get straight. The governor, I mean, he's giving himself this authority, but it was written into law by the legislature in violation of our state constitution non-delegation doctrine, which says you can't delegate your authority as a lawmaker to another branch of government. And they did that by writing this law saying that the governor can give himself the powers, declare an emergency. The only 5 people that can check that power are his executive council, the lieutenant governor, attorney general, state auditor, secretary of state. And after 5 days, if they approve it, he has the power up to 30 days. After 30 days, he has to call back the legislature to do a legislative veto, which is also unconstitutional in the way it's written. But what he can do is let those powers expire on day 29, and then an hour later reissue his state of emergency with all the executive orders and continue another 30 days. So he can actually not even allow the legislature to reconvene to challenge that or to veto his powers. He can continue to do this every day, every month, forever. And if he wants to soften or turn his knobs up and soften his executive orders, he could still retain the state of emergency and continue to write laws unilaterally for whatever he wants to do. California emissions, that's a health issue, right? Because of air pollution. He could put in whatever he wants to do unilaterally, one man writing law for all Minnesotans without using the legislature, which is the voice of the people.
You know what? This is and we're going to stray away a little bit, but bring it back.
Oh, no way.
This is the type of bullcrap that happened when Governor Walz was a scared little boy in the Minnesota National Guard. This is the good old boy system that, hey, I'm at the top of the food chain and I'm going to do what's best for me and what I think is the best for whoever. And we're just going to do it. So you guys shut up and just do what I say. And that was the type of leadership system that was had when he was in the Guard. And so it just carried right over. It must just be a way of life for these guys who were senior officers in the Minnesota Guard. It is absolutely ridiculous. I don't.
The scary thing when you allow one person to wield this power, and even when there's these little executive councils in the legislature that can approve spending, like there's 10 legislators that approved that all approved the purchase of this morgue that Governor Walz wanted to spend money on. When you have a small concentration of people making these decisions, the amount of lobbyists and special interest groups that surround those people with misinformation, misleading information, or just campaign contributions is absolutely sickening. And the result of this is that we have major corporations in America who are, benefiting extremely from this. You look at the ads on TV when in between the political ads, there's ads for, Walmart, Amazon, Target, Facebook, all these companies that are greatly benefiting from telling people to stay home. Yeah. And they're the ones that are continuing to push the narrative of fear.
All the places where it's really safe to go, by the way. It's absolutely safe to go to Walmart, to Menards, to Home Depot, to Lowe's, some of these other national contributors, basically, is what you're saying. So, I mean, this is pay to play. There's no question about it. This is pay to play. And the hypocrisy is absolutely astounding. The governor of the state of Minnesota, who, by the way, canceled the state, the Great Minnesota Get-Together, the Minnesota State Fair. We are talking about, do you know how many people I visit at their booths every year at that state fair who tell me, this makes our year. This is what pays our living expenses. This is what pays to put food on the table for my kids. It's an outdoor event. It's outdoors. The majority of the stuff that you do there is outdoors. But it's unsafe. We can't go there. We can't do that. And so the guy who, by the way, is preaching about these green deals, and Richard, you need to go and you need to buy yourself a car. Okay, and that car should not burn fuel because that car is very dangerous, by the way, if it burns fuel. And you could kill babies. By the way, we're not going to get into that, and we know that that party kills babies. But you could kill babies if you drive this gas-guzzling diesel of a Dodge Ram, you sinner. And they preach from this platform of humanity. And so Richard, you murderous heathen racist, you are going to now go buy this $80,000 car, which, by the way, you couldn't fit a mouse in the driver's seat of this thing. But you're going to go buy this thing that was, by the way, also made in China, but we're not going there either. And you're going to drive this thing around because, I don't care if you have a place to plug it in. That's not my business. But you're going to drive this electric thing for the safety of all of us. Meanwhile, I am going to show up at the drive-through State Fair in my 11.1 mile per gallon, whatever the hell that ugly thing was that he was driving. This hypocrisy, Mr. Representative Munson, is astounding. Are people starting to understand this? Are you hearing pushback from people? How do we stop this? What is the solution? We know the issue. It sits on Summit Avenue. What is the solution for stopping this?
Well, the solution really is to get people involved in the political process who normally weren't paying attention or just kind of went in and voted traditionally how their parents voted or how they, friends at work voted. People, especially in the service industry, hairstylists out there and stuff that always used to walk in and vote for the DFL need to understand that that's the party that's doing this to you. That's the party that took your jobs away. And that's the party that thinks that government knows better than you do on how to spend your money and how to live your life. And we need people to turn out and vote for Republicans up and down the ticket because we believe in freedom and liberty and individual accountability, individual responsibility. And that's really the solution to this problem. And there's so many people who normally didn't get involved in politics. And I've long said that people get involved in politics when government gets involved in their lives. And if they're touched by government in a good way, then they usually become a Democrat. If they are touched by government in a bad way, they become a small government Republican. And government has touched people like Joe Biden. Okay, we have a lot of bad touches by government this year, and a lot of people become engaged, and we need to make sure that they turn out and vote.
Well, that's a really good thing that you said there, because the folks that you say need to get out and vote, the service industry people, the working class / middle class folks that need to get out and vote, those are the people that maybe sometimes don't even vote, right? Because I've heard people say, "Well, I'm not voting this year because I don't like." They both suck. But I think the left banks on the fact that people like the small business owners or the waitresses or the bartenders aren't going to go vote at all. And so they don't know. They don't want to be involved in politics. To be quite honest, politics sucks. When you're the small guy and you don't know really where to go to get the answers and all that other stuff. And now we're in a situation, like you said, we need the folks to go out and vote and have their voices heard, and also realize who's really keeping them down, who's keeping them oppressed. I agree with you 100%. It's the same thing with, this BLM and the African American community.
Mm-hmm.
We won't get into that, but who's really holding you back? And now they need to get involved. These small business people need to get involved because, like you said, we're not the party holding them down.
Yeah, and we see this grand hypocrisy everywhere. You talked about the electric vehicle, mandates, the California emissions mandates that the governor is going to cram through. People like electric cars, but then when you say that over 60% of the battery of that lithium-ion battery in these electric cars, over 60% of it is nickel. And liberals also say that you can't mine nickel anywhere in the world without destroying the environment. And so where's the hypocrisy in that? Where's the I call them green energy science deniers, because they deny the science of how green energy stuff is created and the environmental destruction that we do to third world countries in mining nickel. If we can't mine nickel here safely under the strictest environmental conditions, then we shouldn't be mandating electric cars.
These batteries weigh. What does the average nickel battery weigh? Do you have any idea?
On a Tesla, on the Tesla Model X, it's like 700 pounds. On school buses, these electric school bus batteries are over 2,000 pounds. You're talking about over 1,000 pounds of nickel. And there's, neodymium, which is used for these rare earth magnets in the motors that's mined in China, that's created a toxic slew like 5 miles in diameter. There's minerals they mine in the Congo using 40,000 child laborers. And, solar panels, the same thing. The amount of precious metals that are mined and destroying the environment in third world countries so that we can use a product that has a, short shelf life here is absolutely hypocritical. There's not enough nickel in the world to replace our electric cars, and they're doing it through mandates. And instead of having these big oil executive lobbyists at the Capitol, walking around in cowboy hats, we have a bunch of green energy lobbyists running around in man buns and sandals that are taking, millions and tens of millions of taxpayer dollars and taking it out of state to their corporations and making, hand over fist money off the taxpayers.
Have you heard of any people or businesses, and this is a real side-cuffed question, it just kind of came upon my perverted mind here, but have you heard of any business owners or people going out just saying, screw it? Richard with his big birthday party the other day, they had 12 or 14 people in their party. Why not just go in there and call it a protest? I mean, is there a creative way around some of this? I mean, it's okay to protest. It's okay to burn stuff down. What can we do to get around this thing?
This is a protest. Bring me a beer.
Yes.
Well, certainly at the beginning of this, shutdown, when businesses were closing left and right, there was a movement to say, you know what, guys, everybody, June 1st, just open up regardless, because they can't arrest us all.
Right.
And then as that deadline approached, everybody kind of got cold feet because, local municipalities were talking about, oh gosh, what happens if the city doesn't enforce it? Are they going to be sued? There's also a movement to grant full immunity to any business in case there's a COVID case there or a death, to shield them from liability. I mean, that's hypocritical too, because we don't do that for the flu.
Right.
Every year, tens of thousands of people die from the flu. We don't know where they got it, but if it can be traced back to a restaurant, are they liable? This backwards liability thing is ridiculous.
Representative Jeremy Munson, you know how it goes. I got to pay some bills here. So I'm up against a hard stop, and we got to go. I want to have you back. This is a very engaging conversation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. More PC Radio tomorrow and every single weekday at 4 p.m. Central. We'll see you tomorrow. Patriotically Correct Radio.
Get to know them. Grow to love them. Love to hate them. Stewie and Richie. PC Radio.